Hey loves. Okay, so for Motivational Monday, I wanted to talk to you guys about this is like a really touchy topic, and I know it's gonna trigger some people, but I have to listen. Okay. um God sees what we go through. You know what I mean? He hears our cries, he sees what we go through, but we have to also understand that sometimes things could have been worse. And I tell you guys all the time in other videos, like, sometimes we're meant to take a boat instead of a plane, because had we taken a plane, they would have crashed. So God says you got to take the boat. And unfortunately, maybe the boat transportation is going to take a whole week, and week with no food and no water. Do you get where I'm coming from? But if we took the plane, the outcome would have been worse. God knows our outcome before we know our outcome, right? Doesn't matter what situation you're in. You know what I mean? Whether you're being attacked, whether you're in a job you don't like, or whether you're going through rough times right now financially. And this was a message specifically to God. Made sure he pointed this out. He was saying, you better tell those that literally obeyed me and felt some type of way for obeying me. Do you get where I'm coming from? And what he was talking about is, let's just say God told you had to move from New York to Tennessee, and you moved to Tennessee and you're having a rough time. You're like, I almost said the D word. I almost said damn. Well, I just said it. But you're like, God, like, you told me to move from New York to Tennessee, and I'm struggling in Tennessee. I was better off in New York. And you're frustrated, you're mad, and your money's not right. Or, for example, when I left the tarot industry, I gave up $14,000 a month, okay, from that. But I never once complained to God about it, because I knew that God was going to take care of me, one, and I knew it was the right thing. I never complained about it. But I know there's people that have been in that same situation, may not be under these circumstances, but the same situation where they had to obey God and give up something that was hard to give up because of the fear of not being able to provide, take care of their expenses. Maybe they had children, so like I said, it may not be that specific situation, but it's under these circumstances, it's similar, right? What he was saying is that he knows the outcome before we know the outcome. What's so crazy? The scripture talks about food. A seagull just picked up food and just flew over my car in a circle, and he flew away with the food in his mouth. So funny. Oh my goodness. So he doesn't want us to be ungrateful, because let me read this to you. Okay. This is Numbers 11, fire from the Lord. Now the people complained about their hardships in hearing of the Lord. And when he heard them, his anger aroused. The fire from the Lord burned among them, and so they were saying to Moses, oh, we were better off in Egypt. Like, when we were in Egypt, we had food. We had all the fish we can eat, or whatever, because they're comparing, Moses following God and obeying God and choosing. They're like, we would have been better off just staying as a slave in Egypt, right? And that offends God. That offends. God's like, here I am taking you out of something that would not have been a good outcome, because maybe Pharaoh would have killed them all, right? Here I am saving you guys, and because you went through this turmoil for this specific period of time, you're gonna compare that to me. You're gonna compare me to. You're gonna compare my you're gonna compare the obedience that I'm telling you to obey by, or my path for you to Egypt, to someone that was slaving you. You get where I'm coming from? And so God felt like they were ungrateful, right? So God ended up, they're saying basically, because what happened was they only had manna, which was like a seed that looked like a resin to eat, right? They didn't have any food or anything like that, right? But it wasn't going to be like that forever. But because they did not see anything change in the moment, they thought that Egypt was better based on food, right? Not realizing that God literally saved their lives, right? So Moses heard them crying and heard that they were angry, and Moses asked God, they were asking for meat, and Moses said they want meat, and God's like, okay, fine, I'm gonna give you guys meat for a whole month. So what happened was they ate meat for a whole month, and it even says in Numbers 11 that they ate meat until meat was like stuck in between their teeth and everything. And guess what happened? Those who were ungrateful that they were saved from Egypt and saved from slavery, they ended up catching a plague. Okay, I said plague. Okay, they ended up catching a plague and ended up getting sick, right? So in this scripture, it's just basically saying that the outcome would have been worse, not to be ungrateful for where God has taken you. Like, there's been times where, I'm not gonna lie, in 2016, I was going down a rough path, okay? And I went through a near-death experience, and, you know, I gave up a lifestyle where I was making a good amount of money, a job where I was making good amount of money, through a lot of trauma too. And she was also a part of the whole thing that was going on with my sickness and the spell work and stuff, right? So at that time I was upset. I was like, God, how are you gonna take me from this and put me into this? Like, when does the pain stop, you know? And then it went from that to me changing my life and going back to school. And I'm like, wow, you know what? I went through that pain for a bit, but I went back to school. I graduated, got my degree. You know what I mean? Like, I started my own business. I have other businesses. Like, I was like, wow, I'm doing so much better, you know? Whereas if I would have been ungrateful and continued to think ungratefully, I would not have made it to that outcome. I would not even be making videos for you guys today had I been ungrateful. Do you get where I'm coming from? So even when God told me to leave the tarot business, I obeyed. I didn't question him. You know, I didn't second guess it. When he was stern with me and said, you got to go now, I left. Do you get where I'm coming from? I didn't care about how much income I was losing, because I know how God works. I know how God moves when it comes to stuff like that, right? I don't know God's mind, but I know what his intentions for me, right? So with that being said, guys, don't look at the issues that you have right now and just base your outcome on what's happening now. Remember that what's happening now is gonna eventually, you're gonna get to a good outcome, but what's happening now is a part of that. Going through the turmoils, the trials and errors now is a part of that. Don't be like the ungrateful Israelites that complained because they had to eat seeds for a short period of time before they get to the promised land, and then they compared not having meat to, you know, they said they would rather stay in slavery in Egypt than to be obeying God and eating seeds. Like, do you see where I'm coming from? That's really ungrateful, you know? So you have to understand that no matter how difficult it is right now, just know that there's something that's going to come out of it that's positive, but you have to also have faith in God, okay? And not to be ungrateful. Because when you are ungrateful, God will give you what it is that you want. He'll say, so you would have rather stayed there? Okay, I'm going to grant you with this. And then he grants you with what you want, and then it ends up not being what you wanted. Do you get where I'm coming from? Sometimes that rejection's your protection. Sometimes God won't give you what you prayed for because it's not for you. You get where I'm coming from? Because God knows the outcome of it. God knows where it's going to lead you, what's going to happen to you if you get it. You know what I mean? God has better plans for you. Let me give y'all some examples, okay? So you guys can understand where I'm coming from, you know? Okay. So you end up saying, God, I have to have this job. You know, God gave you a job to make ends meet. You know, you can meet the basic necessities, etc. But you want more. God is saying, I'm going to give you more. Just be patient with me. God, no, I need this job. You know, this makes so much money. You're praying to God, even though God said no, you're praying to God because you want it so bad. God gives you the job. Okay, you don't want to wait on my timing? Fine, I'm going to give it to you. You go to the workplace. The boss ends up being unfair. They cut your paycheck short. And then you end up realizing that, you know, your stuff gets stolen there, etc. And then you're stressed out, you're overworked, and you're underpaid. Okay? Then you can't complain to God and say, God, why would you send me here? You know? Or God says, you cannot be in that relationship with that. That's not your husband. God, I really, really love this man. I want to be with him so bad. And God says, that's not your husband though. But God, I love him so much. I can't be without him. Okay, fine. Be with him. And then you catch an STD, or you end up getting pregnant, right? And now because of that, you're a single mom. Do you get where I'm coming from? Or you want this chick because she's so bad, quote unquote, so bad. God, I have to have her as my wife. Oh my gosh, God, I have to be with her. And God says, that's not your wife. You can't be with her. You're like, God, I need to be with her. God, why are you doing this to me? I've been single for so long. You end up being with this girl. Turns out she's a whole witch. Ruined your whole life. Now she's blackmailing you, trying to ruin your reputation. You see where I'm coming from? So sometimes we are in a situation, or we're in the position we're in for the moment, because God knows that's what's best for us for the moment. Do you get where I'm coming from? So we have to have faith and trust that God knows what's best for us more than we know what's best for ourselves, right? And God sees the outcome of different situations and stuff. So there's a reason why sometimes we're not able to have certain things, and we just have to have faith and know that what's for us is for us, and what's for us can't be taken away from us, right? And that's just it. Okay, love you guys. Bye.